you for joining us. Again, I'm Keith Pomeroy, Chief Academic Officer, and I serve as principal in the Online Academy. Since we are opening a window of opportunity for people to join the Online Academy, we just wanted to make sure that we were taking the time to walk everyone through exactly what the Online Academy is and how it functions. So we're just going to go through these items. These are the things that we'll talk about today: state requirements, the options for Online Academy students, attendance and grades, what the Online Academy is and what it is not. Then I'll give an overview of the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school in the Online Academy. So when we look at the Online Academy, last July, the state passed House Bill 110, and it had a significant impact on what's allowable in terms of blended and online learning in the state of Ohio. So to provide a 100% online learning option, which the Online Academy is, districts must now create an online school with a specific IRN. So that's an ID number that the state gives to buildings when you create buildings, and students must enroll in that school. So the Online Academy is its own building, and it's a separate school, and students who choose to join will be enrolled in that school. However, students can still participate in athletics, clubs, or extracurriculars in buildings. They can have remote access to a school counselor, and they can attend any in-person courses that we do not offer in the Upper Arlington Online Academy. So when we look at our high school schedules, it is quite common for our students to have the majority of their courses in an online setting, but some courses back in the building as well. Okay, and then we also provide internet service via hotspot if a family needs some support for internet connectivity. Okay, our options for kids. So sixth grade, again, grades 6 through 12 courses that are not available in Edgenuity may be taken in the building. So for instance, if you have a child who is in orchestra in the middle level, obviously you would have the opportunity to go into the building for that orchestra class. K-5 students will have access to all of the apps on the iPad. So in addition to what we do within our elementary platform, our students have access to Dreambox, BrainPop, Math Learning Center apps, Lexia, all of the apps that would come on the iPad, and our teachers will be using those apps along the way. So they're going to use those to supplement the work that you're doing in the platform as appropriate. The defined set of courses that are available in the Online Academy are on the District Online Academy website. We will share this presentation when we're done, and then that link will be directly in that presentation as well. But you could find those right now on the Online Academy website within the district website. Attendance and grades. So it's important to talk about attendance and grades in this setting. The state is expecting us to show that students are spending roughly 910 hours, not roughly, they're expecting to see 910 hours per school year of attendance for students, and that's redundant. I shouldn't have school year twice there. This will be primarily calculated through reports from platforms, but we also will be using logs with students as well. So there's an expectation of roughly 5.5 hours daily of work for 180 school days. So we're expecting to see, it is a school day. So kids are expected to work in this setting, and we're expecting to see that that effort of 5.5 hours daily. Progress reporting will work through Upper Arlington teachers, guided by data from the platforms. So while our teachers will be holding some live sessions along the way and doing those things, they're going to be getting a lot of their data from Edgenuity at the secondary level. Accelerate learning at the elementary level would be where you're going to see those platform interactions, and we'll get a lot of data from those settings. We really think it's important to talk about what the online academy is and what it is not when we're talking to parents. So what it is not is, it is not an enhanced distance learning setting. So it is not live group instruction all day through Zoom. If you're at the secondary level, it's not an 8-period day where you're attending different classes throughout the day. What it is a fairly independent process where you're able to work ahead at your own pace, but you're supported with content or monitoring teachers. So we have teachers who are working directly with you on content. In some cases, we might have someone who just monitors a course. But this is work that requires a different set of skills. So students need to be able to plan out their work. They need to continue to make progress. They need to reach out when they need support. So it's really important that kids recognize and that parents recognize that this is a different set of skills. So the other thing, what it is at the 612 level is it is very much part in Edgenuity and part in a building. It is very difficult for us to meet all of the course options within a high school schedule, especially. So in many of those cases, students are going into the building for part of their schedule. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Elementary Online Academy. And I should have said along the way, if you have any questions, feel free to pose those in the chat. There's a question and answer location within that chat. So if you have any questions along the way, go ahead and pose those at any time. We're going to be gathering those so that we can kind of answer those at the end. The elementary school in the online academy, we have two teachers, two full-time teachers in the online academy. Ms. Caradonna is teaching grades K through 2, and Mrs. Koch is teaching grades K through 5, and they're using Accelerate Education as their platform. So that is the learning platform that students will be in quite a bit. We thought it would be important for you to kind of understand some of the highlights of what they do. So every Monday, they do a weekly STEM challenge with students. So that is grades K through 5, all meeting on a live Zoom to go through that weekly STEM challenge. They have daily grade level meetings. So they're meeting with each set of students daily. And those are going to focus on both literacy and math are going to be the primary focus of those meetings. And then students have weekly individual meetings with their teachers. So they are working specifically with each child just to check in with them. If there are specific things they want to review with them or follow up, they're doing that. They're doing weekly read aloud sessions, and then they're offering office hours as well. So if a student is having trouble with something and really needs to follow up with their teacher, there will be office hour options for students to show up and work through some of their academic questions. This is just wanted to give you kind of a look of what a week might look like. So this would be a sample first grade schedule, and Ms. Caradonna would be laying out here exactly what's happening when, and then what to expect and Accelerate that week so that you have an idea of what's happening. And obviously in this example from October, you know, the Friday of that week was no school, so that would show up in their weekly schedule. When we look then at office hours, Ms. Caradonna would offer those times where students can come to office hours if they have additional questions or if they need a follow-up. Then you always have this schedule to know when you could go in for that space. Attendance, as required by the Ohio Department of Education, we have regulations that need to be set in place to provide a framework for students to be engaged in the school process. So we're doing attendance in the elementary school through multiple methods. We're going to be looking at your Accelerate progress and your session logs. So the session logs within Accelerate are going to tell us how long was this student working on this content actively? What was the work they were doing? We expect attendance in our Zoom sessions. Our live Zoom sessions are required sessions. So those are not optional sessions, and we're taking attendance within those. And then each student outside of Accelerate in their Zoom settings will receive a log, and the state is requiring us to have a log for each student so they can log time where they're doing work outside of the live sessions and outside of the time they're spending in Accelerate. So Accelerate might have an assignment where you're working outside the system. We just need to track that work that's happening outside of the system. When we look at the middle level, so when we look at middle school in the online academy, Mrs. Flowers and Mrs. Watkins are going to be your two full-time teachers in the middle school online academy. And when we look at a typical week with Mrs. Flowers and Mrs. Watkins, what we're really doing is, you'll see on Monday, they do previews by grade level. So that's going to kind of give you an idea of what's happening in that week, what's going to be in Edgenuity for you for that week. So they're going through all the content with each grade level to help all of our students understand what's coming. Then at the end of the day on Monday, they're doing advisory. That's a time to connect with students at grade levels, just to check in from a social emotional perspective. Often includes games, several things, just to give an opportunity to connect. And then if you look on Tuesday, you're seeing individual check-ins with students. So they're doing individual check-ins all day long with students to make sure that they're doing well. And then they're doing optional office hours throughout the week, and you can see office hours and individual check-ins going on throughout the week. And then we're expecting all of your progress to be completed by 4 p.m. on Friday, and work to be submitted. Your logs are due at the end of each week with the middle school. Just to describe a little bit about their weekly previews, they spend 15 to 20-minute preview sessions for each content area. So with the exception of Concilium, if you're in Concilium and high school level courses, those you would be dealing directly with your teachers for those courses. Those are held by grade level. So you can see 6th grade on Mondays from 9 to 10:15, 7th grade from 10:30 to 11:45, and 8th grade from 1 to 2:15. Those are sessions that are prepared and taught by our two middle school OA teachers. And then they give additional resources to help build and support student understanding in that work that is coming in that week. This helps students stay on pace, helps them keep up. As I said, it's a pretty independent process, and we're finding that this is really helpful in helping our students really stay on pace within the work that they're doing. Attendance at these sessions is mandatory. So again, if we have live Zoom sessions, we're expecting our students to attend, and we're taking attendance in those settings. Okay, check-ins. All students will meet individually with both OA teachers one time per week. So in that case, when you're looking at math and science, that is going to be Mrs. Flowers. And when you're looking at language arts and social studies, that's going to be Mrs. Watkins. So each student is meeting with both of those teachers for that content specific need. Students will sign up for a time offered. They can look at the options and sign up for the time that works best for them. This opportunity provides students with a chance to ask any specific questions or work through any issues that they're having within the curriculum, within what they're working through. Those weekly check-ins also allow teachers an opportunity to check on how they're doing. From a mental health perspective, it helps us get to know the students better, and also give them reminders of things that are coming up. And I'll tell you, the one thing that we have found to be most successful is when students really make a connection with one teacher in the online academy. It makes it much easier to reach out and ask for help and get the things that you need. And we find that really helps kids be successful in this setting. So advisory is 30 minutes on Monday from 2:45 to 3:15. Again, builds relationships by playing games and having discussions. Participation in that advisory is an optional opportunity. Students don't have to attend advisory, but we love to have them there. It really helps them get to know each other and helps us get to know them even better. Office hours, those are optional opportunities for students to work one-on-one with our online academy teachers. They love working with our students, so we really prefer that kids use them as much as possible. It can be used for anything that a student needs. So specific help with an assignment, review for a quiz, help with a project, any of those things. So to sign up for office hours, students will schedule an appointment through a tool that we use called You Can Book Me. This gives them the ability to get a specific time and not kind of wait in line in office hours. They get their own individual time that they can schedule. Okay, so second semester courses, when you look, this is kind of a list of the courses that we have within our middle school online academy. And you can see, yeah, that gives you both the middle school, and some of those are high school credit courses, like when you look at algebra and honors geometry, honors physical science. So you can see all those things that are happening. And then from an exploratory arts perspective, you'll see the options that we have here: art in online academy, or you could do band, orchestra, or choir in the building, PE in the online academy, STEM and Edgenuity, or a passion project. So we'll talk a little bit about that here in a moment. Guided notes. Guided notes are an important part. And I would say if you are a middle school or a high school student, the guided notes create a significant opportunity. So, but for our middle school students, completion and submission of the guided notes is a requirement for all 4 core classes that are provided in Edgenuity. The due dates are highlighted in the weekly newsletter, as well as we'll go over that in previews, and it'll be in your preview notes, and those are provided every Monday. If you look in Edgenuity, guided notes are due on summary or instruction days. It's instruction days if the summary is not assigned. So notes can be completed while watching the Edgenuity videos or afterwards, and notes can be, they're a great resource or reference when you're looking at quizzes and tests. And again, your online academy teachers will be glad to work through any questions you have as you're working on guided notes. Okay, projects, science projects. We like to do hands-on science experiments that are created by our Upper Arlington Online Academy teachers for middle school level science courses. And as necessary, materials are left on porches over the weekend, or and then they're picked up the following week if we need to pick them back up. And the labs are embedded directly into Edgenuity. So it's actually quite entertaining. You will randomly see Mrs. Flowers at your front door, leaving something for you on your porch if you're doing science projects. So we think it's a great opportunity to give hands-on projects to our kids. Exploratory arts, physical education, all students we'll be looking at 30 minutes of activity per day. Students choose whatever physical activity they would like to do each day. And then they're using logs that are turned in Friday of each week. And then there's an informative project focused on a sport or physical activity or health-related topic of their choice. So students will create the presentation, a presentation to share their information with others, and students will choose the type of presentation they would like to create. Art or music. Art we offer through Edgenuity with additional hands-on opportunities created by our teachers. And then if materials are needed, we would deliver those to your porches just like we do the science materials. Or a student could do band, orchestra, or choir. So if they do that, they would be going into the building to take those courses. And then we also are doing a STEM or a passion project. So there's a STEM class through Edgenuity, but we have a lot of students who've selected to do a passion project as well. So in that case, it would be a project of your choosing, and you would work directly with your online academy teachers to build out that project. Okay, passion project, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Students choose a topic that is meaningful to them to research in depth and to learn how to do or to create something new. They will then develop and share an end product. And through this process, students will have the opportunity to set goals, research, build organizational skills, and learn more about themselves and their passions and more. This is a great opportunity to work with Mrs. Watkins and Mrs. Flowers to really dive into projects that are meaningful to you. This is one thing that I've heard from students who were in the online academy last year, having the opportunity to dive into areas of real interest for them, they found really beneficial. So this will be an extensive project in that the students will work on it throughout the entire semester with weekly assignments, checkpoints to help them stay on track. So even though students would be coming in partway through the semester, we still think this is a significant opportunity for them. And we still would like to give them the chance to pursue a passion project, even though they would be starting on February 28th. So teachers will meet regularly via Zoom to help students progress through the process of completing this project. So it'll be a part of the work that they're doing each week. Okay, logs. These are the logs that we'll be collecting from students. We're collecting a reading log. As extensions of their learning, students are required to complete a minimum of 30 minutes of independent reading per day or 150 minutes per week. So students will be filling out a reading log and with their actual time spent reading and submitting that. Your PE log, we talked about 30 minutes of physical activity per day. Again, this activity could include walking the dog, running, biking, jump rope, practice for a sports team, etc. Students will fill out the PE log, recording the actual time they spend doing their physical activity each day. And then Consilium. If you're doing Consilium, there'll be a log expected for your Consilium work to kind of track all the work that you're doing with your Consilium teacher. And that would include the time attending your live Zoom meetings with your Consilium teacher. Band, orchestra, and choir, students who take music class in the traditional building will just log that time so that we can keep track, as I've said, we need to do for the state in order to make sure that we're tracking the amount of time students are spending in the online academy. All of those are expected to be submitted each Friday by 4 o'clock. Your middle school teachers will be talking to you, I think, each week about that. Attendance, again, when we look at the requirements from the state, we're going to be looking at Edgenuity progress and session logs. So we're looking at those reading and PE logs every Friday by 4, the logs for band, orchestra, choir, and Consilium. Attendance at your weekly preview sessions each Monday. Those are being recorded in PowerSchool, and attendance at your weekly check-ins are required as well. So we'll be using all of those items, and we expect everything to be submitted, including your guided notes for each Edgenuity course by the end of the day on the date they are due according to Edgenuity, and those will be in your weekly newsletters. And then attendance at any mandatory Zoom sessions and your completed work for Consilium if you are in a Consilium course. Okay, high school, moving on to high school. So Mr. Bridgham is your full-time online academy teacher. He is working directly with me as our main point of contact in the high school. And when we look at the high school, what you're going to see is you are expected to have weekly check-ins with Mr. Bridgham to discuss anything going on with your academics. Those check-ins are a way also for Mr. Bridgham to check in on students' well-being and make sure that everything is going well for them. He also is really good at making connections. If you're struggling in a certain content area, he can make all the connections with the teachers who are teaching each content area. There are also optional office hours that are provided Monday through Friday as opportunities for students to meet one-on-one with specific teachers to work through their academic questions. One thing that I don't have listed here that I do want to talk about, we've also added study halls. So there's 2 ways that you can handle study halls. At the high school level, we're doing a study hall at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. every day of the week. And our reason for doing that is we find that students often work well if they're in a space where they know they just need to work. So when students come in, Mr. Bridgham will put them in a breakout room. He'll check in on them. He'll make sure that they're making progress. If you do get behind, if you join the online academy and get behind, we will assign mandatory study halls as well. So if students get more than 10% behind in a course, then we will start assigning them to a mandatory study hall. So when we say that there are mandatory Zooms, then we are expecting children to attend those. So if you do get behind, we're gonna make sure that we're scheduling those mandatory Zooms to check in with students. Again, it's independent work. And if you procrastinate and start to get behind, it builds up on you. So we really want to work hard to keep kids moving forward in the content as much as possible. And again, we have 30 content areas with teachers to support each of those classes. So we have a wide range of classes at the high school level, and we have 30 different content area teachers that are supporting our classes. Students in the middle school or the high school are both going to have direct connection to an online academy space within Canvas. And this is going to give you a lot of information about schedules, about connecting with your teachers, and then any of the weekly updates that are coming out you would find in this space as well. And when you look at that within that space, one of the things you'll find is a list of your teachers who are supporting certain courses so that you know how to reach those teachers and when their office hours are. Attendance at the high school level. When we look at attendance here, each week by Friday, we're really asking you to make enough progress to stay within 3% of where your Edgenuity says you should be. So you are able to work ahead as much as you want to work ahead, but what we really need you to do is stay within 3% of the expected progress within each class. If we see that a child is not staying within 3%, then we're really looking at your time. So we're looking closely within our Edgenuity logs to see how much time is a child spending within their courses. And then on top of that, each child, again, will receive a time log, and we're expecting students to track their time when they're outside of the platform in order to report that back. The state is requiring us to track that time outside of the platform so that we know exactly what's happening with a child. If we see that you're not making expected progress, and if you're not putting in the time in the platform or in your log, then we're going to be recording absences based on the amount of time that is missed. So again, the state is requiring 5.5 hours per day of work because it is a school day. So if a child has 5 classes at the high school level, we would expect to see 27.5 hours of work each week to support those courses. When we look at that, what we'll see on our end, let me go back one, is we'll start to see if a child is behind. It'll show up in red for us, and then we'll be able to take a look at what's happening. And we'll work with students to try and put a plan in place to get caught up and keep them moving forward. Okay, the next steps from this point. Students may enroll starting when this webinar ends through February 17th by noon. That will shut off at noon on February 17th. This enrollment will be for the entire second semester. So there's an expectation that it's going to be from here on. So once this is posted, there will be a link both in this presentation and on the Online Academy website where you can register to move your child into the Online Academy. The first day for students in the Online Academy would be Monday, February 28th. And then you'll receive an email, a welcome email with information about orientation on the 28th. So depending on your level, you would have different times where you do that for elementary, middle, and high school. And you would receive that welcome email that would give you all the information you need. That would go to both you and your child. As a parent, you would receive that, and your child will receive that as well. Okay, that's a lot of information, and we just want to see if there are any questions out there. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and then we will try to answer those live. Dr. Yaki, I think we have no questions yet in this space.
There are no questions currently in the chat, but just through experience of this previously, I would say to our families that are currently listening and to families that may view this in the recording, please submit that as soon as you are sure about your family choice. If you want to join the Online Academy, while we do have a deadline, we start to look at those and look at courses that students might need as soon as those names start coming in. So please, as soon as you've made that family commitment that you want to make that switch for the remainder of the semester, please go ahead and fill out that form. And then along those lines, if you're just kind of on the fence, please don't submit that form until you have solidified your decision, because it just gets confusing on our end. So as soon as you have solidified that choice, please go ahead and submit that form. And then Keith shared, and there are a couple names here on the screen that help us monitor the Online Academy at uaschools.org. As you have those questions, please send them to us. We do a great job monitoring that and are usually able to get answers back to you fairly quickly. Of course, if you submit questions over the weekend, we'll get back to you first thing on Monday. But just let us know what your questions are, because we want to make sure that you're informed to make that right decision for your family. So we have one question maybe that came in, a question about orientation and first day. How long is it and what is it? So Keith, I don't know if you want to divide that up amongst the grade levels.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in most of those settings, that is going to be most likely a 45-minute orientation to start the day on the 28th. And what we're going to want to do is just make sure students understand exactly what to expect in that setting. So that would be different at the elementary, middle, and high school. So those will be run by those groups. So, you know, Miss Caradonna and Mrs. Koch would be running the elementary one. Mrs. Flowers and Mrs. Watkins would be running the middle school one. And then Mr. Bridgham and I would probably be running the high school one. I most likely would pop into each one along the way. So we'll probably stagger them. What we're going to want to make sure is that kids know how to get into their platforms, what their week is going to look like, how to access their teachers, kind of lay out their schedule for them, make sure that they understand how attendance is going to work. We're just going to lay out the expectations for what this looks like for students, and just make sure that we get them off on the right foot, and that we're there to support them, and that they know how to connect with us. So really, I would expect that to be 45 minutes to an hour tops, but 45 minutes most likely as an introduction. And then they'll probably have other times that they'll be meeting with their teachers even on that first day. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, so the next question is, can you attend school for orchestra? And I'll field this one.
Yes.
That answer is yes. If your
Yes.
child is in orchestra or band, that is definitely not something that we can offer through the online academy. So your child would go back to their home school to attend that, and you would work with your homeschool to make sure that they just sign in and sign out. And it would be very similar, like every day there's orchestra, they're expected to go to the school for orchestra, or every day there's band, they're expected to go to the school for band.
Okay.
So like, we'll do like a final warning here. So if anyone has any additional questions that they're ready to ask, feel free to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we will do a wrap up. And if you think of questions as you start to have family discussions, just email them to that online academy at uaschools.org, and we will answer as a team. So, will there be help resources for struggling students?
Yes. So if students, I guess, what we're trying to do is keep a close eye on if we have students who are struggling, and then we're trying to put resources in place to support those students. And that may be different based on the needs of each child and how they might be struggling. So, you know, Mr. Bridgham or Mrs. Watkins or Mrs. Flowers or Miss Caradonna or Mrs. Koch, we're all going to be trying to work and set up times to meet with kids, find out what those needs are. That can be things like setting up schedules with kids to help them keep up, checking in with them, making connections to content area teachers where they need support. Art classes, when I look at art classes, we provide those art lessons, and if there are resources that kids need for those art classes, specifically at the middle level, we're going to be dropping those off. We do have art classes at the high school level. If you're in a more intense art class, our students in many cases are going into the building for those art classes, because they're really, that's a connection where they need access to the tools that are available within those art classes.
And Keith, the next question rolled in around physical education and credit for the high school level. So do you want to address how you've handled that previously?
Yes. So we have Upper Arlington High School teachers who have built online physical education courses. So then we enroll students into those courses so that they can take those online versions of those courses.
So if we need to go in for art class, so if they need to go in for art class, even if they do their other classes remotely. So I think, yes, Keith answered that. If there is a specialized elective course like in art or the musics that we discussed, children do have that option to go back to their physical school to attend that class. But we do have several other type electives that are offered remotely.
And the majority of my students at the high school level this year have at least one class in the building. We have some students who have no classes in the building, but the majority of our students have one or two classes in the building, just because of the specialized nature of the class.
So Keith, let's give our families a moment or two to digest that information to see if they have a follow-up question along those lines, but it does look like our Q&A chat box has kind of halted.
Okay. If there are no other questions, then again, if you have follow-up questions, I would say reach out to the Online Academy email address. I would say also go to the Online Academy website. You'll find all the resources there, and you can find that the contact information as well. Thank you for coming. Again, February 17th at noon is the deadline, but if you know your decision, the earlier you could submit that, the more that will give us a chance to plan for all of our students who are making a transition from a building to the Online Academy. Hopefully this was helpful, and thank you so much for attending. Take care.